Think you're special? One of a kind? We agree. The way you pursue your digital ambitions is unique to you. And so is your appetite for digital risk. Whether you're hyperconnecting your ecosystem, empowering a distributed workforce, rapidly leveraging cloud, IoT, AI, or other new technologies, RSA is here to help you manage digital risk your way at every stage of your journey. So go ahead, be you.
Hello, and welcome to Building Cybersecurity as a Shared Service. If you're joining us live, our speaker is in the Slido chat discussion, answering your questions right now. For audio-video issues, click the technical support button below. I'd like to now turn it over to Erwin Eimers for the presentation.
Thank you. My name is Erwin Eimers. I'm a general manager for the regional headquarters in the Americas for Sumitomo Chemical. And I basically fulfill two roles besides heading up the regional headquarters IT in the Americas, where I design and implement regional shared services for our group companies in the Americas. I'm also a member of Sumitomo's Global IT Committee, called the Global One Team. And there I help develop global IT standards and services and a global IT and cybersecurity roadmap for Sumitomo Chemical. So Sumitomo Chemical is a group of separate companies in 5 different sectors with almost 33,000 employees globally. The 5 sectors we operate in is the petrochemical and plastics, energy and functional materials, IT-related chemicals, health and crop sciences, and pharmaceuticals. There is a long history of the local group companies to have independence and a freedom to act. The reason is they're vastly different in size and operating model, and as you see on the bottom, the sector they operate in. The Sumitomo Chemical Board has decided that digital innovation is a material issue across all sectors to create value in the future. And as part of that digital innovation program, everybody agreed that more common platforms need to be available and rolled out throughout all the Sumitomo Group companies. Now, if you look at the structure of Sumitomo Chemical, including the Americas region, obviously we have other regions as well. You see the 5 sectors on the right, and they each have a global sector head, and each of the group companies has a president that reports to that sector head. Besides those sectors, there's also corporate planning and IT, which has a global head, and that's where the Americas regional headquarters report to. There's also a legal and compliance global function that the Americas regional legal and compliance office reports in. There's obviously more corporate functions, but these are the ones that are in scope for this discussion. So this is kind of the situational overview. There is definitely an increase in cybersecurity threats, and this has been acknowledged by top management, but also by the group company. Within the Global IT Committee, we agreed that global standards need to be established or improved and enforced to enforce the CIA triad, confidentiality, and technical. There is definitely a communication gap between the group companies, the regional headquarters, and then the headquarters within the sector, as well as between the corporate functions and the companies. And we also need to get acknowledgement from the group companies that there are certain issues that need to be addressed. Now, in case of the cybersecurity issues that we're going to discuss, this hasn't really been an issue because every single group company in our region has had an issue with cybersecurity, some kind of social engineering. event that has made them acknowledge that this is something that needs to be addressed. Now, the autonomy of each of the group companies is very important because of the very different sectors they operate in and different type of business model, product, and customers they have. We have, for instance, manufacturing and sales of chemical and organic crop protection and enhancement products. We have soil health, public health, forest health. We even have manufacturing plant where we develop and manufacture automotive products, car interiors, door trims, etc. We make epitaxial wafers, resorcinol that goes in tires, wood adhesive, dyes, super-engineered plastics for in-flight aerospace products, pyrethrum-based pest control products that are derived from plant. So very different business models. So what we need is more common systems, less cybersecurity incidents. Facts are we have a very limited IT resource at the group company level because they're traditionally smaller sized companies that operate under the Sumitomo Chemical name. So that means they have the same threat as a large sized company, but the infrastructure of a small company. In some cases, it's just a production plant with 25, 30 people working on it, and IT is just a handful of people. We have some existing regional shared services available. They have traditionally not been very successful, the global as well as the regional shared services. There's less or no cybersecurity skills at the group company level. And as I mentioned before, the communication between the three layers is not optimal. And the buy-in from the group companies for global services is not very, very good. The group company presidents have been hesitant to buy in on those because there is the time difference with Japan, there is sometimes language barrier, there is a lack of understanding from corporate IT about the group company's business model or industry, and of course the freedom to operate. So hopefully this gives a little bit of an introduction. And I like to talk about the journey. So with this task at hand, I had to come up with an action plan. And the action plan for me was, let's look at the existing services globally and regionally, and let's do a lessons learned. Let's really analyze the gaps and confirm the needs on group company level. Let's develop a security improvement plan because the real focus is cybersecurity. And let's make sure we get buy-ins and acceptance and support from Sumitomo Chemical top level in Japan, as well as locally from the different group companies. Now, the lessons learned for me were there were issues with the shared services, mainly because they were infrastructure hosting services in privately owned Sumitomo data centers. So they were inflexible. They weren't really cost effective for the smaller group companies. Plus, as I mentioned before, the outsourcing model was not really a very popular model by the group companies because it is a form of control. And to be honest, since the focus really changed on security and rolling out common systems, the existing services weren't addressing that. And especially for the group company presidents, CEO fraud, phishing, whaling was becoming very apparent, and everybody has had some issues with it for the last couple. So the gap analysis What was interesting is if you look at the existing shared services and the hosting, etc., it was really focused on availability, not much on confidentiality and integrity at all. And I believe that's where a majority of the issues are. And social engineering, again, is not the best. The other gap was that so far shared services, either globally or regionally, were rolled out and were kind of enforced, and that does not create a buy-in at group company level. So we developed a plan which clearly had a need to improve the cybersecurity issues at group company level. In order to make this plan to become successful, it needs to get buy-in from group company as well as headquarters level, and therefore it needs to solve problems for headquarters as well as for the group company. And so what we needed to do was get that buy-in. And so from Sumitomo Chemical corporate level, global level, the way to get the buy-in was tying in whatever regional solutions we were presenting into the global IT roadmap, creating a three-tiered responsibility model where the group company and regional headquarters, as well as corporate IT, had a responsibility. In this way, everybody's involved. It's not an outsourcing model as much for the group company. And also it leaves the operational aspect at the group company level. That was really the goal behind the new model. Now, how do we get the buy-in from the group companies? For me, it was to operate at regional level, not at global level, to create a committee with the IT leads of all the group companies, as well as with the president. I had several work groups with them to really understand and agree what their needs are, and sometimes also pointing them out, understand the culture, and coming up with solutions that would fix the issues, but in a way that they don't feel their freedom to operate threatened, and in a way that they're in control. And that was really by creating transparency on solution planning and future road mapping, a three-tiered approach, where you have responsibility at all three levels, and help with training and standards, and help them understanding why. And of course, the communicate. Now, what we did really was we implemented a global multi-tenant Microsoft 365 environment, which really created immediately a much more improved collaboration and information sharing environment between the group company and headquarters. We've made an attempt before, and it didn't work because it was fully rolled out, and at least the proposal was to be fully rolled out and fully supported and managed by headquarters. In this case, we said, let's implement it jointly between headquarters, regional headquarters, group company IT, a vendor, and let's work on this together and come up with rules of engagement and escalation path, and also support availability from regional headquarters, which is within their Americas region, but there is no time difference. Our business hours are their business hours, which also fixed an issue for headquarters. We implemented a global MSS solution, the managed security service from Entech. And it's basically a SIM service as a managed service and as a portal for group company as well as regional headquarters and headquarters, all three levels can view cybersecurity events. And so we created the responsibility for the group company to act on any alerts from security incidents. But they have the responsibility to report it and to remediate the incidents. We have the responsibility as regional headquarters to assist them with that and ultimately report it up to the sector head in Japan as well as corporate function. We also created for certain companies who felt the need for it to have some remediation services and forensic services by a third party. And headquarters really had just the oversight. They had the they were receiving the alerts. They can go into the portal, and they can just the oversight function to make sure that everything gets properly reported. We on the regional level, we created cybersecurity standards for web-facing, internet-facing, and websites. We eventually made that global standard, so all web-facing and internet-facing systems will follow the same standards. We at regional level will make sure those standards are being followed, and we are now even working on providing pen testing services, give each group company that insight. And we created regionalized contents for cybersecurity awareness training and phishing campaigns. So that is a service that regional headquarters provide for the group company. The results of the phishing campaigns get shared only with that group company. It will not share between the group companies, and only a aggregated result will be shared with headquarters. So we kind of leave it at the group company to get details. We just provide the service. And this was much more acceptable to the group company than the way it was done before. What we're working on now is to come up with a global standard, if you will, for endpoint detection and remediation, and probably a combination of a tool and a service from a third party to have an equally designed endpoint protection and remediation. Because these are services that group companies cannot afford to do by themselves, or even sometimes afford the tool could be plus, if they implement the tool, they might not have the people to really operate it. Now, we already talked about it a little bit, but how we implemented those services to get the buy-in from all the group companies and Sumitomo was, as I said, the common systems. It was Symantec's MSS, and that is now becoming a Accenture service. Microsoft 365, we implemented those completely jointly between headquarters, regional headquarters, and group companies. Since this solved an issue on multiple levels, headquarters has been covering all the implementation costs, and they have global pricing agreements with Accenture and Microsoft on these products, and so we do a pass-through charge, and so the group companies leverage those global pricing agreements, which is something they could not do by themselves. Headquarters provides the regular Microsoft 365 support, but in case there is a need for emergency support, then regional headquarters, which is the same business hours, headquarters will provide. So all services that headquarters or regional headquarters is providing, from a resource perspective, those are all covered by the headquarters. If there's third-party cost involved or license cost involved, then those will be passed on to the group company. So one example I'd like to show is MSS. So this is the Semantic Managed Security service. The way that's implemented is, on the left, you see the group company environments. They all send their logs to an Americas log collection point, which is managed by the regional headquarters. We help implementing that. The managed service is doing all the threat aggregation and consolidation and analysis, and then sends alerts back in a portal as well as through email and text messages. And based on the severity level, they go to group company, regional headquarters. On the so in this case, you see there is the responsibility on all three levels. There is operationally no responsibility or no involvement from group company or regional headquarters. And in this case, we leave the corporate function to an oversight function. Regional headquarters is really operating in between, and the group company still stays operationally responsible, but can get our assistance in case that it's the regional incident response plan and pen testing is something we're working on now. So this is a huge service. And what we're doing here is we created with the regional legal and compliance office an incident response plan that we implement at one group company first, then we do a tabletop exercise. And then we roll it up to the next group company. And each time we do a tabletop exercise, we come with improvements that then will be implemented in all the incident response plans. So each tabletop exercise will improve the incident response plan for all the group companies. This is not a service that the headquarters has been So, in a summary, and by the way, if there are any questions, please reach out to me on Slido. I'm live available. So, as a summary, I would say, please, given the current needs, the direction from the board, and the available resources at the group company level, shared services really were the right answer to successfully address issues and needs and wants at group company and at Sumitomo level. Individually, the group companies would not have been able to resolve it. To roll it out as a global service from headquarters would not have created the right buy-in either. The lessons learned are very important to figure out what did not work on the shared services so far that worked. Analyze the gaps and needs on local level was truly important because it really makes sure we focus on the right things, and it also shows the group companies we're really interested in your gaps and needs, and not just the corporate plan that we're trying to pull out. The plans had to be prioritized and effective and realistic, especially realistic. Sometimes large companies like ours create a big plan, create big project teams, and just roll it out all over the globe. And in that case, we would never have the right engagement and buy-in. So we had to do it realistic in steps that are the right size for the region and for the companies. And there had to be that tie-in, the create buy-in on both levels. The solutions need to tie in to the global IT roadmap. And I'm also part of the global team. I have a good insight into what the global roadmap is. And then, of course, the communication function. A lot of times, the regional headquarters that we created is truly a function that communicates up and down to keep that information flowing from the group companies up and from headquarters down. There was a real need for improvement in security. There was, in fact, outsourcing was not the right fit in our culture, where there's a big freedom of operate. Some common systems and standards were needed and also accepted. There was nobody disagreeing with that. And training and testing, just to provide training and testing and to give the results just to the group company creates a lot of value and also accountability back to the group company to do something. And then the multi-tier support model and communication function we provided has really shown benefit. And then last but not least, I would say, the questions I had, and I also would like to ask you to ask if you're in a similar position, is, are shared services really addressing the issues? Do you really understand what is needed from the shared service? Is it the right model? There's some pieces you want to leave at group company level, some pieces you want to leave at corporate level. Are we trying to do too much, right? It's better to do a few things right and a lot of things somewhat right. Because if you can't deliver, it's very hard to get a second chance. And really try to approach it from a group company president level. Is it a service I would buy from another third party? Is it priced right? And the other piece is, how do I know my service is successful? I made clear agreements with all the group company presidents. This is what I'm trying to address. This is how we're going to measure it. A year from now, we'll look at success rate, and we can discuss this. So agreement on what success looks like and how it's being measured is important. And to have a clear feedback loop on those, have those repeated conversations. I have work groups now on the group company president level and work groups on IT level. And they bring up very valuable information that I then share with the group company. And there are a few minutes left, so please go into Slido with any more questions. And this was the end of my presentation. Thank you.